What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Anthony, and I have more energy at the start tonight than I did last week, and I'm happy about that, even though it is 10:30 on the East Coast. We're a little late.
I was going to say, that's surprising because it's late. It's, it's 10:30 Eastern time, which lately I would be in bed by now.
Yeah, you used to be, we both are night owls at one point. I'm a little less than I used to be. You're way less than you used to be.
Way less. And I think it's like, I don't know, you always hear your parents, like anyone older than you, it's like, oh, when I hit that age, my metabolism slowed down. Or when I hit that age, whatever that age is, I've hit it. And it was in the last year. And I'll be 40 this year. So,
yeah. Anthony, how old are you? I'm that age.
Yeah, whatever age that is, I've hit it. And it kind of feels good. Like full disclosure, I've been going to bed at like 8:39.
Can confirm. Lately. Just stops answering my texts. I'm like, I don't know where he's at. What the hell, Anthony? I have questions about the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Where is he? No, it feels good though. Hey, if you're a night owl and you've been like a legacy night owl person, give the early bedtime a chance.
Yeah.
You will wake up earlier. I mean, it's a fact. And you'll wake up refreshed. And you won't get as much done because that's why I was up late night. I'd get shit done. I'd catch up on TV shows, but you'd wake up exhausted.
Yes, I've hit that age too, but my age is more like I'm going to bed at like midnight. So, sometimes it was 1 or 2. Now I'm like, nah, I can get stuff done. I can get till midnight. I sleep till like 8. I'm good to go. 7:30. I'm good to go. So I'm at that age too, as they say in quotes.
On podcast recording nights, if we go late like this, I'll stay up till midnight because I'll, do the social media round and, look at the news. Well, maybe not.
You're so amped up after the conversations we just had too. And tonight was no exception. There's the segue. Who we have, Anthony?
We had Grant from Heart to Gold, Minneapolis, Minnesota's very own. And actually, if you do listen to us, we mentioned them a few episodes back. Tony, you brought up Heart to Gold. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, we brought up Heart to Gold many episodes ago.
We did.
Back when we had the Cliff Diver folks on, Bree and Joey.
And even before that, I think, when we had Ira from Movements 2 years ago.
That's right. So they were breadcrumbs, right? We always say breadcrumbs. They were breadcrumbs, stair steps and breadcrumbs that led to this conversation. But our year-end recap episode, right? You brought up the fact that you had recently gotten the Free Help album that they had just put out.
Yep.
Brief combo on it, but you did give him a shout out.
And I dug the record, in the brief passing. At that point, I think I mentioned to Grant here in a minute, but that we had listened to it maybe in passing or a couple of songs and dug it like, all right, I got to dig in more, and did over the last couple of weeks. And let's see if somebody wants to chat. And sure enough, Grant was gracious enough to give us an hour and a half from the skate park he was at tonight. And a great convo. I mean, dude has got some energy, and a first for us having somebody recording from the skate park. But really cool convo.
That's half the fun with this is finding, well, at least new to us. They've been a band for a decade, but new to us bands that are in our wheelhouse. And I think we mentioned this in a recent episode where when you find a band that's on LP3 and they have all these EPs, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. Rabbit hole. Like I listened to Tom, I listened to Comp, I checked out some of the old demos. If you go on Bandcamp, they got like 12 releases between LPs, EPs, and demos. Did a whole deep dive. And so between the Free Help album that just dropped in November and the tour they have coming up, which we're hoping to get down to, it's
that'd be cool.
They get some buzz around them. And if you haven't listened to them, go check them out. They're all obviously on Spotify. Hearts of Gold, the latest album, Free Help. And deep dive the back catalog. You can see
stair steps.
Yeah,
oh, how they got here. Yeah,
you can see the stair steps. But yeah, are we going to that show? Maybe.
I think we have to. And we say that, but
it's not
this
snowing,
is one of the ones.
if it's not snowing, I'll go down.
Good point. Late March could be snowing in the New England region, but yeah, let's get down there if we can, and let's get into our conversation with Grant, vocals, guitar from the band Heart to Gold.
All right, we're here with Grant from Heart to Gold. Grant, how are you? It's a Friday evening. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I just had a really, really, really great skate sesh. I'm in Golden Valley / Minneapolis, Minnesota area, and it was a pretty quiet night at the skate park. I probably come here 2 to 3 times a week, and the last couple sessions have just been fire. Like I'm starting the new year off really. I'm feeling good. Thanks for asking. How are y'all doing?
We're great. This is right up our alley. So this is a first for us. We've never interviewed anybody who's at the skate park currently. So
Right.
100 plus interviews, and this is the first one from the skate park. So that's pretty cool.
I figured that we could try it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and I apologize in advance for being like such a psycho for thinking that it could work. But for now, if you say it's good, then I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. And I'm jealous you're at a skate park. I tried to skateboard back in the day. I could ollie. I never graduated to the kickflip. So I was a beginner for sure.
It's all about the perception of, when you're younger, it seems like that's the stepping stone and like the barriers that you have to cross. I mean, I learned how to kickflip, but I don't kickflip, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I would fall on my face. So I think I've been on a skateboard maybe twice in my life. So it's probably best that I keep it to 2.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope that maybe someday you feel confident enough to step on a
Maybe.
skateboard again, but if not, no pressure.
Yeah. So we found out about you and your band, Heart to Gold. You've come up, I think, twice in the history of our podcast. Once, I think you were touring with Movements. We talked to Ira from Movements. She's 2 years ago, Anthony? At least.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah, and then this fall with Bree and Joey from Cliff Diver, and they were just about ready to go out on tour with you and Prince Daddy and Ben Quad. And from then I was like, we've heard this name twice now. It's time to like pay attention to the band. So you put a record out in November, and we were like, "Ooh, this is really good. Let's hit them up." But yeah, we found out about you because of other interviews, which is a cool way to find out about bands.
Yeah, that's very cool that those 2 or 3 people were kind enough to include us in the mix. Ira is a good friend of mine. I really, really, I learned a lot getting to spend the minimal amount of time that I did with that dude. So thanks, Ira.
Yeah, we really dig the record. So you guys are from Minneapolis. And so Minneapolis and St. Paul, this is one thing I've always wondered. Is there beef between like the Twin Cities, or are you guys friends?
I would say that we're friends. I mean, I have never experienced beef, but I have like a history of like not reading the room correctly all the time. So like if there is beef, I might not really know. And I'm sure it's like dependent on who you talk to. I'm sure there's some like sport fan nuts that are like have a little bit more grief with one side or the other than I do. But I've always dug it. I got a lot of friends in St. Paul.
Right on. I've never been.
Neither
Maybe
have
someday.
I. Yeah, and we know we've heard about some of the music from there in the past, but we'll pick your brain on that in just a second. But that skate park, you've got to be inside, right? It's too cold. We're recording this in January. It's got to be way too cold there to be outside.
Yeah, this is like
Good.
is one of the longest standing indoor skate parks in Minnesota. It's called Third Lair. It's for sure on the map. And then the other park that I would skate is Familia HQ. I got a lot of respect and friendships through Familia too. So I'm fortunate enough to be a part of the skateboard community here. And yeah, I'm inside to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, because it's been really cold here. I'm sure it's been cold there. We've had 8 degrees at night with wind chill into the negative, so I can't imagine it's much better there.
Yeah, it's definitely cold. I obviously like grew up with like sub-zero temperatures. The last 2 winters have been extremely mild, but as far as like snow, I don't really know specifically why, but I'm sure that there's some type of global climate change in the mix. But
Yeah.
it still has gotten like super, super cold. But I have recently been taking not recently, I've been doing it for a while now, but I take cold showers in the morning. So in the winter, the water is like, even as you can imagine, like so cold.
Yeah.
So it's like it kind of prepares me in some ways, probably not as much as I think for the cold weather, dude. The cold weather sucks. I'm a freeze baby. Like I
Yeah.
I have to walk my dog for like an hour to 2 hours every single day, and it just like it catches up to you. The fingertips. I got a little I have some weird kind of nerve damage in my left hand from an accident that I was in. So like in the winter when it gets cold, like the nerve damage is that much more present. If that makes any
Mhm.
sense.
Yep. Oh, definitely. Yeah, because things don't work as well when they're cold, right? I mean,
No, and it
especially in the body.
sucks, man. It sucks because I just want to like. No one wants to feel like that. I feel like I'm super old. Like an old person that like can't turn the doorknob or hold the plate the right way.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not
Or
that
play
bad.
the
It's not that
guitar. I mean,
Yeah, or
Right.
play the
Yeah.
guitar, or play the guitar. That's a great point.
You won't be playing the outdoor X Games anytime soon, right?
I will not be playing the outdoor X Games anytime soon. No.
so speaking of old, you guys, Heart to Gold, you've been a band for about a decade. Was that your first band, and how does it form? How do you guys form?
So Heart to Gold has been a band about, I would say, like the 8 years, which is about a decade. But hearing
Mhm.
somebody say that isn't me is like
Crazy.
kind of
Yeah.
insane. It's definitely like a slow burn. There can be beauty in that. I heard some great advice today that and I'm kind of just like talking to talk because I'm feeling good, but like they asked somebody that I was looking at and they asked what do you want people to get out of this conversation that we're having? And he simply said like have patience. Have patience and don't ever try to rush anything. And I feel like when you're considering like a decade, 10 years, 365 days each year, that's not a short amount of time, but it just flies
Right.
by. So it flies by so quick. And I feel like you get closer to being at that decade of like sharing your art with the world, you might start to feel like, should I have amounted to this or, certain feelings like that. But lately I've been on the glass is half full side of things and just like trying to, remember the things that I'm grateful and that I remind myself that we have done a lot of really cool stuff in a decade. But I'm sorry, I was getting off tangent.
No, this is great. This is perfect because I love that mentality. That's a great way to think. As somebody who puts out a small podcast once a week for 5 years, having that perspective is a good thing. Like you want everybody to hear it. You want everybody to know about your art, but
Right.
it just doesn't work that way. So having a positive attitude about it is a good way to be.
I got two more phrases. Take these notes down. Lao Tzu, 1,000-mile journey has to start with a single step.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then here's my second one. Not all popcorn kernels pop at the same time.
That's so true.
That one I like. I've never heard that one.
Like your time is coming, like just this life, you only live life once and you do leave this world alone, unfortunately. And you would just be selling yourself short to think that what you want to do with your life and the things that you want to contribute to life are impractical or, don't matter. You just got to kind of do your thing. All right. Your question was, how did the band start, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I love all that. Yeah.
The band started in about probably like late 2015 was when my friend Sidian Johnson and we just started hanging out a lot more, and he had started to play bass and he knew that I played guitar from just mutual friends, and that was like just one thing that like we initially connected on. And he had just started playing bass and I was definitely like a novice at guitar, but I could like jam with somebody or convince somebody that I was maybe like better than them. I don't know, but we just like started jamming together, and it turned into, we were listening to a lot of like Germs, Ramones, early Green Day, Misfits, just like Buzzcocks, like punk rock stuff. And that's where it was like, well, that's if you're learning to play an instrument, like what better to like
It's perfect. Yeah.
work the
Mhm.
kinks out and like play like 3, 4, 5 chord punk rock music. And that is the direction that we just like started writing songs. And I wrote a couple songs. Then we started jamming, and I had a friend, his name is Jack Anderson. He was like the only person that I had any like previous musical chemistry with, if that makes sense. Like he lived down the street and he was a drummer, and we would jam with like other kids that would come around and hang out and like bless their souls. But there was definitely like something that like it would stood the test of time between he and I. It grew into our adult post high school life. So I didn't start music until I was like 20 years old.
Oh well.
I just was like a closeted guitar player. I was just like into different things, and I guess when you're a kid, you just kind of got to figure yourself out. It just didn't. It
Absolutely.
just like it. There just wasn't a whole lot of like validation or reassurance that like, oh, playing guitar, like, dude, that's awesome. Like nobody at my school was ever like, that's so cool that you play guitar, or like, makes you feel like it's a pursuit worthwhile. But I definitely had like an itch, but I just had that itch in privacy. So I learned how to play the guitar pretty well, I would say, but like I didn't know anything about the guitar world. I had like my little practice amp and I had my one guitar, and I just like worked out my kinks for certain styles of music with those tools. And then when I met Sid, he opened the door to like, he used a tuner pedal, and like here you get different amps, and if you want to play with a drummer, you have to be at a similar volume. And so I wrote some of these songs, and I like worked on them with Sid. And then while that was happening, once I felt like we were kind of snowballing into something that was like a little more concrete, like, oh, this is like a track from point A to point B, I would share like my guitar instrumental with this drummer, Jack. And so I would jam these songs with these two separate people until I like brought it together. Because for my experience up until that point, it was kind of just like when you get a bunch of like little kids in a room together, like everybody just like wants to jam their own shit. Like nobody,
just chaos.
nobody like is down. Nobody knows the direction that they want to go. So I figured like, oh, like we have these songs. Like I would say that Jack and I's jamming at that point in life was like a little sporadic. And but we knew that like we had chemistry, and we knew we had like, we had a love for the same type of music, and we loved playing music, and we loved playing music together. But just the hangouts were scattered until I had these full songs. Then I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm gonna share these with Jack. And then we just met up together, and we knew all the songs already. And then the band started with those two first songs, and then we ended up all moving to a town in Minnesota called Red Wing, because Sid and I went to luthier school. We had like this itch to just really see if we could just like do the band stuff without really knowing anything. We just knew like we were all getting along, and we just liked playing music together. So we were like, why don't Sid and I go to this luthier school? And then Jack was like, I'll do my nursing courses there. And so the three of us just moved into this like 4 or 5 bedroom house in Red Wing. And that's where the band like really, really started. We used those first two songs, and then I wrote 3 other songs, and then we had a 5-song EP, and the rest is kind of history. We never stopped,
Yeah, off to the races after that. So are you going to shows before this? Or like what gets you kind of thinking about being in a band where you want to actually put music out and maybe play shows for people? Are you like repping similar style music in Minneapolis or Minnesota? I know we grew up listening to Atmosphere, which comes from Minneapolis, comes from the Twin Cities, but that's underground hip hop, right? Indie hip hop. But we didn't know much about what else comes from where you guys are at. So is there more of that going on too?
So I will say, to answer your question, like, yeah, when that point happened, I had been to a small list of shows. I wouldn't say a handful, more than a handful, but definitely not like, I wasn't like a scene lord, like I didn't know
Right.
I didn't know anybody. All I knew is that Jack's older brother, he had this like, you couldn't describe it, but you knew that he was into stuff that you couldn't expect anybody else. At least that's how it felt, like he would share music with me, and my cousins would share music with me. And it's funny that you brought up Atmosphere, because Atmosphere was one of my deep cut, like I kind of grew up without the internet at my fingertips until I was in my mid-teens kind of. So when my cousins from Portland would visit, they're like 10 years older than me. So when I was maybe like 12 or 11, to just like keep me out of their hair and like have me stop being annoying, they would give me this iPod. They would just
Nice.
they would like, here's this iPod, like go touch grass and listen to music or something like. And so I would get this iPad, and like it opened my brain to so much different music, scary sounding things. But in that, I've listened to the first Atmosphere certified like album. It's Overcast. That was
Yep.
the my first
Mhm.
thing that I ever listened to. And I remember that first opening track, like 1597, like
Hmm.
it changed me because it's so haunting and it was unlike anything that I had ever heard. And it just like I knew that like my mom would be so mad if I was listening to this, but I was just like nobody knew that like that and Deerhoof, those were two artists that like my cousins put me onto.
Complete opposites too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like this is like this world of just like counterculture without being able to like put my finger on it. And I also liked skateboarding and I liked music and I just, there was something about it that like it just drew me in super heavy. And so that like was in my back pocket all throughout basically like my middle school and high school career. And after high school, Jack's brother Josh, like he invited me to this show with this band that at the moment, like I did know because at the later half of my high school like time is when I got like smartphones, like smartphones really opened the
Hmm.
door
Mhm.
to like checking out, so much different music at your fingertips. It snowballed into me just like deep diving into things and finding bands that really like fit the specific mix of everything that I like. I'm describing that in like such a profound poetic way, but it was just like I was just finding music that I liked. And
Hmm.
like he brought me to a show with this band that I liked. And like I knew that if I was gonna go to the show, I was gonna do what I saw in the videos. And that was like stage diving and crowd surfing and like camaraderie and like going insane. But like I didn't know how to do that in a way that like spared me from embarrassment in a way,
Right.
So like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that in fact happened and I got a taste of that and it just changed me and I started going to shows with my hood up and just like I didn't know anybody. I didn't have that scene cred or anything. But I knew why I was there. And I went to that one show and then I started going to like these metalcore shows because I had another friend who was always too cool to rock with me, but he was like the person that I looked to like, yo, like he's doing it. Like he's in a band, he's doing this metalcore like attack wannabe, asking Alexandria type stuff. And like I had a palette for that at that time. And I looked up to that dude hoping that someday he would like look at me and be like, we should jam. But so I would like roll around his crew and he would invite me to like his little jam spaces. And I think that introduced me to like, I might have found like a punk band or I went to like this in Minnesota and I'm sure everywhere, but there used to be like these big, just like showcase shows where there was like 20 small local bands. And like,
Oh yeah.
I think like my friend Carlos's, like one of his bands was sharing the same room as this other band that like changed me. And it was either this band called Molly's Worst Enemy or it was this band Pierre. And then it was this band Remo Drive. And I knew of these people. They were just like, these were the people that like I made an ass of myself for the sake of their shows. And I think that like I hope to this day they're probably like, yo, that like helps. It takes one person to open the pit, and
Yeah.
or like crowd surf or jump on somebody's back and shout the words in the mic and grab the mic. Like it takes somebody to do that. And that was always me. I always did that. But I did it in secrecy until I had the courage to like finally like go up to Eric Paulson from Remo Drive. I had seen these people in so many dingy basements and in so many random places, but they were like the first batch of people that had like a community and a following, and you would see the same people at all these shows. It was only nature or like natural to just like eventually like make eye contact and say hello, and then all of a sudden I'm like jumping on people, and I'm sorry everybody, thank you for giving me the time,
Yeah.
but that is like how I started getting the courage, or I guess the blueprint for like, okay, if you start a band, like here's where you start. Instead of like thinking like, oh, let's get a gig at a bar. Like I knew about DIY. Like I knew about that ethos. And that was how I felt like getting into it. It was like, the punk mentality, like book your own shows. Ian Mackay was like a huge influence to me. And it was just like book your own shows, put out your own music, record your own music, like figure it out if nobody's going to give you the time of day. And where I went to high school, that's exactly how I felt. I just felt like, I was always trying to impress people that I had no business worrying about impressing.
Yeah, well, that's high school though, right? We all had bouts of that, I'm sure. And it's cool that you found the scene that you were looking for, right? I mean, that's Anthony and I can relate to that because we had a similar kind of finding the people at that age. We've known each other since we were what, 5th grade, 4th grade, something like that, 3rd grade.
30 years ago.
Yeah, a long time. And getting to go to get to high school, get in a car, going to the record store, going to shows, and then all that stuff. And now doing this, 25 years later, talking.
You guys mean that you guys aren't the coolest dudes in a room by default because you're Italian? That's crazy.
Oh, wow, I've never heard that. I might start saying that.
Yeah. No, I'm typically not, but sometimes I feel that way, which is always fun.
But hey, that feeling of when you kind of discover all of it, and there's an element of like, am I really supposed to be here? You know what I mean? Like, it's this underground thing. It's subculture. Not everyone knows about it, but we all found it. Everyone in this room found it, and it's a cool feeling. And I wish I could relive that. Actually, like those early first shows.
You take it for granted, for real. It's such a formative experience to have, and I mean, I there are people that don't like it. They can't get into it, and they, it's too, I guess, abrasive for them. And it's just like, there is no way that I was turning that down. Like, just to be a part of something that I felt like I had some kind of bragging rights for like being included in something, and like, gatekeepy to like all those kids that I realized that like, oh, I'm just trying to impress you guys, and like, you guys aren't even like nice to me. We're friends, but you have no idea what I'm like starting to like realize, and like the things that I'm including myself in and feeling like I'm a part of. Like, you have no idea, and like I don't even think that you're worthy. Like you wouldn't care. That's like the gatekeeping side of it, which like is long and gone. But like, it takes being on that like objectively like ignorant side of the coin to like get out of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I was the stereotypical like wannabe kind of like jockey dude that was like too afraid to like tell anybody that he liked punk rock music, and even skateboarding. Like, it was just like, once everybody fell off of it, like they might entertain your interest for a little bit. I was always just getting like clowned on, and I just thought that was the norm. And I realized a little bit of worth like engaging with like DIY and like the punk communities.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's why people find that stuff, whether it be skateboarding, music, that counterculture, that subculture, that people like us. I mean, Anthony and I found it and have been stuck with it for 35 years. I love it. You mentioned Portland. Which Portland? Your cousins? Oregon or Maine?
Oregon. Yeah, they were just
the weird
like
one.
They were delinquents, and then they got the hell out of Minnesota. And I always looked up to them. They got me into skateboarding. They got me into like Sonic the Hedgehog and the anti-hero business and like just punk music, and like, nobody in my family knew that like how much I took to it, but it just took me under its wing, and here I am.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd say Portland, Maine, just because that's where we're from, but that's okay.
Sorry, man. I actually have never been to Maine, but like I want to go to Maine. Everybody in Minnesota is like Minnesota to Maine pipeline. Like it's beauty.
Interesting.
Oh, right
yeah.
on.
Well, I think we are similar in Minnesota's bigger. They're more big. The cities are bigger. Your bigger cities are bigger than our big cities. But we have a lot of lakes. We have some mountains. We have cold. We have the 4 seasons like you guys do. So I think there are a lot of similarities there. I always go back to that atmosphere, that secret song off of Seven's Travel, say, shh. It's a lot like that song could be Maine. You could change all the words, and it is Maine. So that's one of the songs that I vibed with as a 20-year-old when it dropped. But I was hoping you'd say Portland. But hey, you can make it to Maine. You're not going to be that far away when you play Boston in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, maybe I can convince people to be like, yo, Anthony and Tony, they're cool.
Hell yeah.
Like, we should link.
Coolest guys in the room. I mean, we're Italian, so.
Dude, we love Italians in Heart to Gold, straight up.
So Grant, what are the early early Heart to Gold shows like? So you guys form in like 2015, 16. You know, I know that there's full lengths and EPs in there. So the early days of playing shows and whatnot, do you know what you want to be? Do you have a sound in mind? You know, what's the mantra with you guys?
We have a sound in mind. We don't execute it correctly. We thought we had a vision in mind, and we couldn't be the furthest thing far from it. And our reference was like Joyce Manor self-titled meets the Ramones meets Nirvana and early Green Day.
Yeah, that's all over the map.
And like there's like Midwest emo in there too, but like
how early Green Day? Like how early are you talking? You talking like American Idiot? You talking Dookie? You talking before that?
I'm talking Kerplunk and Dookie.
Yes. All right. Good.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm
glad you
talking
said
Kerplunk and Dookie. Yeah, I'm a huge Green Day fan. Like I love early Green Day, and like I mean Slappy Hours and Kerplunk. Like I had those on CD.
I had them on CD too. Yep.
When I didn't have the internet or phone, I had a CD player and CDs, and like that was just what I got, man. And Nevermind changed me. But yeah, that was like the early days were just us living at Red Wing, and we would jam, we would trip out, we would smoke weed, just like be delinquents. We would go to shows, and then when we would play shows, we would, you know, that was a time where like gear was nothing to me, and I would just like I would throw my guitars at my amps, and I rub my amps and like just try to cause a scene, or just like like make people walk out of this little basement. A lot of basements, so many weird places that we played, and I would just try and give people, I guess, what I thought was like a noteworthy experience, to have them be like there was a direction that I wanted. There were people that I wanted to impress. Like I guess that's just like maybe like something subconscious that I have a history of doing. Like it went from high school, and then it transferred into like, okay, like I know that like Molly's Worst Enemy, Pierre, Remo Drive, these three bands, I want them to know who we are. Like I want to feel like we're mutuals, or like we are like contemporaries in a way. Like I want to be a part of this scene. Like this is what I'm seeing in these videos. Like this is happening in this squad, and like I want to feel that. I want to feel people shouting at us. I want to feel people moshing. Like I want to feel that. And that was like my direction that I tried to like introduce to Sid and Jack at the time. And then shortly after our like real conception, like Jack didn't want to be in the band anymore because he felt like it made him look stupid. Like our first early shows, we would play shows to literally 0 people, and that stuff obviously like builds character. But I think that Jack just had a harder time like looking past that. Jack and I didn't butt heads. Like it was more so that like out of nowhere he was just like, this makes me feel stupid and I don't want to do this anymore. And it was like, oh shit, okay. That wasn't until after we lived in Red Wing though. But while we were living in Red Wing, Sid, he had a hard time with the coursework that we were doing in school, and he ended up just like being like, peace out, I'm not living here anymore, and I'm going back to Minneapolis, and I'm dropping out of school. So I couldn't drop out of school, and Jack wasn't going to drop out of school, so we were just living in this house, like just 2 of us in this huge like big house. And then I was going to school with this older gentleman from Texas. His name is Michael Heimendinger, and he and I got along, and I just like taught him the bass parts that Sidian was playing. And it's actually Michael Heimendinger and Jack Anderson on our very first EP.
Oh wow.
Right on.
And then once the EP came out and we did our schooling in Red Wing, and then we came back to Minneapolis, Michael ended up staying in Red Wing and Jack ended up quitting. So there was no Heart to Gold, but I had rekindled like this soft falling out with Sid. I could tell that like we were not meant to live together, and I think that like, I was a maniac. I just like didn't have my shit in line, and I was probably just like a little gremlin to live with, for first time living out on my own, and feel like I have the world in my hand, just being a kook as I would call it. And so then like when we got back and Jack dropped out, Sid and I ended up like we were jamming, but like Sid like broke his elbow skating with our friend Tom, and then I ended up like getting this like deformity in my shoulder that kept my shoulder like my shoulder was dislocating when I would sleep and when I was like raising my
Oh
hand
man.
and when I would turn my body. So I had to have like this anterior reconstructive surgery on my shoulder. So we were both like, we might not ever be able to play music ever again, you know? And so we ended up recording these like garage demos that you can find on the internet and places. But that was basically like, yo, if we can't come back from this, here's like the latest Heart to Gold material in its current form. And that was the early days of Heart to Gold. It was just like
Yeah.
a lot of like chasing where like she would like mouses on like a little treadmill, like trying to like get our shit in line, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everybody's got those kind of war stories of playing in front of nobody. If you've done it for any length of time, playing in front of nobody, having falling outs, getting back together, putting music together. It sounds like you guys obviously got by all those things to continue on and put out now 3 full lengths. Just putting
Yeah.
out the last one 2 months ago or so, right? So
Yeah.
you obviously made enough noise to get on Memory Music, Will Yip's label, to put out Tom, and then this last record, right? They've both been on Memory Music.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So we were doing this band thing shortly after Jack quit. Sid knew a person that he went to high school with named Blake, and we one thing led to another, and we ended up like getting interest from Blake to like play with us. You know, I think that he was in bands, but he was feeling like maybe a little unfulfilled or just like wanted to explore. And we were kind of just like, I don't really know about this guy. Like, I don't know him, but Sid knows him, and like his name had came up in conversation before, but it was like the way that it was described to me is that like he was like a metalcore drummer, and like at that time, like that metalcore scene, and like the emo punk hardcore scene, they did not mix, and to this day,
No,
like
not really.
they have a hard time mixing, and it was just kind of like to me that was like I had like seen some of that, and that was like the blueprint for what like I would never do. Like I would never
Right on.
do the
Yeah.
pay to play bar gig like
Mm-hmm.
that route. I knew that I didn't want to do that, and I was just like I wasn't as stoked to like hear that like this metalcore kid like wants to jam with us. That was like my ignorance, you know what I mean? And then when we first did jam, it was a match made in heaven. You know, like he was the best drummer I had ever spent in a room with, you know, despite like just maybe like music experience up until that point. And then Blake has been in the band ever since.
Nice. So you did mesh. That those two worlds did come together.
They did. He wasn't as like metalcore chord out as like I thought, you know. Like he probably has some embarrassing stories to share from his own perspective, but like he came out all right. He came out pretty cool. I love that dude. So the memory music thing happened, COVID happened, and it was kind of like shit. Things are pretty slow. I guess like we should probably utilize this time and like commit to this new batch of songs that we want to do. This is post comp and before Tom. We had a great like relationship with our friend Eric Paulson, that first person from Remo Drive, and he was recording our bands. He recorded the Still Stuck EP and comp, and he mixed and he mastered those. And so we were like, cool, like that's the person that we're gonna do our next record with because he's great and we get along with him. He understands us. We're friends, you know, we're good friends. So we started preparing to record this record, and that's exactly what we did. And so Tom was damn near finished, and the pandemic was just starting to like ease up, and you would start noticing people playing shows, and you started to get the gist like, okay, like in the right environment, this is okay to do. And it was like people got their Vax cards. We would set up these DIY shows, and it was like, if you got your Vax card, you can get in the show. And Then I went through this crazy, crazy traumatic accident. That accident that caused nerve damage in my fingers that affects me when I'm cold. I describe it as I almost had my arm amputated because
Mm-hmm.
I had like a gnarly bone
Wow.
infection. I had a really, really gnarly bone infection from this injury that I had skating. And I didn't know if I was ever going to play guitar again. I didn't know if I was going to keep my arm. It was like this whole thing. Then I made it out on the other side pretty damn gracefully, as best as I could. And here I am, and we started to rock again. And then it was like, shit, y'all, like I'm back in action. I'm back in business. Like
Love it.
we can play a gig. And we played a Heart to Gold comeback show. And that comeback show was at this art space in Northeast Minneapolis called Jackson Flats. And the room probably holds like 300 bodies. I shit you not, we stuffed like 450, 500 bodies in that room.
Nice. Nice.
Like four or five band bill, all local bill, all ages show, DIY 100%. And that shit was jumping, my G's. That shit happened. And this dude, my girlfriend, her best friend Leah's boyfriend, his name is Miko. He was like standing on a ladder, like witnessing what was going on. And he was like, this is whatever. I don't really know what he was thinking, but he took a bird's eye video of the crowd
Oh, that's awesome.
during one of our like more popular songs, you know. And that video went up on Twitter the next day, and it went like viral. And
Nice.
we woke up in the morning to a message from Will Yip on Twitter, and he was like, I mean, we knew who the fuck that guy was. So we were like, what? Like, holy shit, that's crazy. And we had a few other labels like reaching out to us, and he just was straight up like, yo, he retweeted it, and then he DM'd us, and he was like, this shit is sick. Like, this reminds me of what I got into when I was first coming up, and like, I just want you guys to know I have your back. Like, this shit is sick. This shit is cool. And we replied like, thank you. So happens that we just have a new mastered record that nobody
Nice.
nobody gives a shit about.
Oh, yeah.
We were trying to like shop Tom around, and like nobody cared about it, and nobody, you know, like that's like the real struggle of DIY. Like, and if you don't have your foot in, it's kind of hard to get your foot in the door with people that like operate at a different tier in music. And
yeah.
Will Yip certainly does do that. And we were just like, yo, like, thanks. Like, do you want to hear our new record? And he was like, yeah, send it. And the next morning he was just like, yo, dude, can I call you?
That's amazing.
I was like, okay, shit, sure. Like, I don't know what you're calling about, you know, but this Will Yip, like, I'm gonna give him my number, you know?
Yeah, I'll chat with him, right? Yeah.
So, like, it's interesting to think about Will like that now, because like I have spent time with him, and like when I do spend time with him, it's not like I'm taking like his history for granted, but it's just like you just like get to know somebody, and you just like stop thinking of them as maybe like the way you thought of them before. Like I love Will, but like when we first started talking to Will, like it was like, it's Will Yip, you know?
Yeah,
it's
a
like,
little starstruck probably, right?
Turnstile, Title Fight, like, yeah, you know, it was just like, I wouldn't say that was something that we were like, I feel like we had asked Eric if he would master Tom, and then he was just like, I think that you should have somebody else master Tom. And then we were like, shit, like the only other producers we know are Will Yip. And then he was just like, y'all can't afford Will Yip, but that's cool. Like, that's really cool. And then we were like, oh shit, okay. Like, so we had this dude named Jake master the record, and turns out that he was Will's intern like a few months before. We had no idea. He had mastered an Origami Angel record at the time, and we were like, that shit sounds fucking great. Like, that shit sounds awesome. Like, let's have this dude master it. Or like ask for his rate. It was totally feasible. And so Jake mastered it. And then when Will called, Will was like, yo, dude, it's like, this shit is fucking dope. Like, this shit is, he was just like really hyped on it. And he was just like, what are you guys doing with it? Like, I would love to like have my hands on it in any way I can, because I back this. Like, that's his phrase. He's like, I back it. I back that. I back them. I back this. And he was just like, I'll remaster it, you know. But then we told him like, yo, we shopped it around and like nobody gave a fuck. And then he was like, can I put this out on Memory Music? I didn't know what that was. And then he like broke it down to us what it was, and it was just like, shit, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's do it, you know?
Let's
Like
go.
Yeah, absolutely.
our first taste of like the music industry stuff was like we had loosely like had a meeting to hire this one PR person for Tom. We were like, cool, we're gonna put it out ourselves. Like, let's work with this PR person that we've seen do some cool things to just like see what that's like. And it turned out that like, you know, she was in the mix. Her name's Jamie Coletta, and she was in the mix working with Will and working with Memory. And it just so happened that like the worlds kind of collided, and it was just like cool. Like, had a meeting with Tim and Will from Memory, and kind of just went from there.
That's amazing. Just being able to have him find you that way, and then call you, and then you, hey, check this out, and he's all in. Like, that's, tell him to. We're waiting for him to answer our DMs too. So tell him we said hi.
Yeah. I'll text them. I'll text them and be like, yo, give those guys the time of day.
Oh man, we'd love to talk to Will, but he's a legend, dude. He's mastered and produced and been a part of so many of the records that have come out of this scene and a few others too. Like, he's got a golden ear, man. He knows what's good. He knows what's gonna get people excited, and knows how to make it sound good too. So that guy's a legend. That's got to be really cool. I'm excited for you just hearing the story.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So that momentum continues. So Free Help, like that, like Tony said, that's when we got into you guys, and we love the record. Like, from the second I heard Surrounded, I'm like, I'm in. And then TNT comes in with like kind of the bendy guitars. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in. I'm so in.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
So how was it writing Free Help? Like, did you guys, because you guys have always been a three-piece, and you bring Will back for this. How was it writing Free Help?
I would say that like we started listening to bands like Hotline TNT and getting into like more of like, like we had a taste of like feeling like, oh shit, we're getting our name out there a little bit. But at the same time, we had no intention of like losing touch with like the reality and the world that we came from. And so like the itch was always there to like find, something in that realm that is still like cool and applicable to us, that like we want to sound like. We don't want to sound like these, huge bands. We don't want to sound like that. And I guess in a songwriting perspective, in the studio, anything goes. But like, I guess we were just listening to like a lot of lo-fi punk music, and we started like, unfortunately, Sid did end up quitting the band again, and this time was for good. God bless him. I love Sid. We're great friends. But he just thought that we were getting into a world that he didn't expect or anticipate, and he just, quite frankly, said like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right on.
And you gotta respect it. It sucks. It sucks sometimes. And that dude, like, he grinded so hard through the mud, like the dirt and the mud that we went through as like a small DIY band. Things are hard and things are stressful, and I almost feel bad that like he had to go through that. But not to be sad. He's cool. We're cool. I love that dude, and he's a legend. But then our friend James Jimbo Kaiser, Pizza Jimbo, he stepped in on bass, and that is when like he and I had a real taste for like similar music, that like we were like ever so lightly or slowly, or however you want to say it, like introducing to Blake, and then we started listening to bands like Show Me the Body and a lot of hardcore music, and but also still loving things about like the Will Yip universe, like the classics that have influenced us, that made us know who he is, like Turnstile and Title Fight. And like we really wanted to, like, we knew like Free Help is going to be being recorded with Will, whereas Tom was just remastered by Will. This second album is our first thing that we're doing with Will from ground up. And early on when we put out Tom, we knew that, and it was just like a moment of time before like we had a batch of songs that were inspired by the idea that we knew we had like a loose agreement to like go into the studio without having things concrete and perfected on our end, because Will wants to like make the song with you, you know, like he doesn't just want you to, he's never gonna like let you just record your song and not touch it or not have any input. Like he cares about songwriting, and we knew that. And so we probably went to, we like after we, songs just come, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, damn, we have 14 tracks. We're the one of those bands that like if we have something and we got a point A to point B and we're all digging it, we're gonna put it out. And so there was no like concept behind anything. It's not a concept record of any kind. It's not like it just like we don't operate that way, and I don't write that way. I have a really like Nirvana, Kurt Cobain inspired approach to songwriting, which can be like negative at times, you know. Sometimes people don't know what any of your songs are about. You lack imagery, and that's just like something that I'm gonna try to work on from this point on. But Free Help was definitely like this is our record we're making with Will Yip. Like this, we're going at it looking like we are doing a collaborative project with Will Yip. And we were writing these songs, and, you know, between like some of the influences from Hotline TNT and Title Fight and like the OCs, if you know that band, we were combining all that to create what ended up being Free Help.
Did you have you had like outlines of where you wanted stuff to go and then you fleshed it out in studio, or did you have like, here are 14 songs, they just need to be molded and, you know, put in the right place?
We had, I would say, more of the first. Like we did have 14 songs or 12. I can't really remember. I mean, like when we were going to the studio, it was like we had 14, but we only ended up bringing 12 of those up to him. You know what I mean? Because we can be kind of fragile, and like, you know, we're in the studio with Will. Like we don't just want to like, time is valuable. So like we don't just like want to waste our time wondering if a track is going to work out, you know, like if it's not going to work out, you know, and you just don't even bring it up. And so there was like 12 tracks that like, to us, we were like, this is really good from point A to point B, from the song structure to the vocal melody and the guitar parts. But we knew that he would want to have takes on that, and like, you know, it ended up just being like, okay, like here's the song that you have. I think that you should double this part. I think you should shorten this part. I think you should move this part here. And like maybe we just like test out some different vocal melodies and harmonies to see like what actually like serves the song, versus just like you coming in here and being like, this is how it has to be. I need it to be that way. It's my art. This is what it's going to be. We knew that we couldn't go into the studio with that mentality, so then we didn't. So what happened was that is like we just had these tracks and they were just kind of like spliced and cut up, and then we added things and we took out things, and then we ended up having like a collaborative effort, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like it kind of pushed the boundaries for you guys, and that's a very different experience than I think some other people have. If I was in a band, I think I'd like the collaborative approach where I'm going in with someone and they are going to test me, and they're going to come at it with fresh ears and different perspective, where it's more than just the collective of the band. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean,
it is cool.
I would imagine very different from Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Tom just has too many bells and whistles. Like, you know, it sounds like we have 4 guitar players, and we do have like cool experimentation on Tom that, to be honest, we just didn't have the time to do on Free Help. It was more so like you had to learn to value the time, and like, yeah, I guess exactly what you said. It was really cool. It can be a little bit hard to, you know, trust the process when it's happening, you know, because I'm the songwriter, and it's just like,
Right.
it's not like Will took away any valor or didn't validate on anything that I made that was good. It was just like, I have a day to pull the trigger on this, you know, like I have a day to like, if this change, we have a night to talk about it before we got to come back the next day. Like we're at an Airbnb. It's just like, Will's really passionate about this switch, and we have to in the moment decide, you know. And I'm sure like we didn't have to, but like we're green behind the ears, you know, like we are like so fresh to that environment that like, not saying that like we couldn't advocate for ourselves, but we were just like, this is his studio, this is like his time, and like they're helping us put this out. And if you questioned him, he would just be like, he would stop everything and it'd be like, why don't you trust me, bro? He's just like,
Oh wow, yeah.
like I wouldn't do something. I wouldn't offer my advice or my take if I didn't think it was good, And he's not, at the same time, he's not tearing you down. He just needs you to stop second guessing that shit. Because he's aware of everything that you're aware of. He's like, yo, this is precious time. And like, I know, like, you're not the only songwriter I've worked with, it's not like I'm trying to make you feel like my opinion is greater than yours. I'm just offering this. And like, you would hear the shit that he'd offered and you'd be like, yo, it is objectively like pretty fucking sick, it's good.
Right.
But it's just
trust
like,
the process.
in the moment, it can be hard for me, especially to just let go. But then, or like walk out of it, I guess, being like, yeah, like that was truly like the most fulfilling, beautiful, collaborative effort, But that's what he wanted. He was just like, I want us to be pissed at each other, because that's like testing us. But like when we leave here, we take a shot and we leave it all on the game field or the playing field, and we come back the next day, dude. And like
Nice.
that is beautiful, Like it is a different world than we were used to, like you said, is brand new for us, and like it was good for us to like, be pushed. We were pushed, like you said.
And probably the first time you've ever done it that way, right? So
it was the first time, yeah. I mean, like Eric was definitely like, Eric was willing to chime in, but like Eric is like such a good guitar player, like the best guitar player I've ever been in the same room with, like that you can't give him a guitar in his hands while your song is playing because he's going to come up with like 20 different fucking amazing things that you want to add to it, Yeah, it was different than anything we had experienced up until then. They're both great. They're both awesome. Like I love both those dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But they just work on music in different ways. And like that's really cool to have the opportunity to make a record with Will Yip.
So it's been out for a couple months now. How's it been since it's been out? I know you guys are gearing up for a tour coming up, but how's it been since the release?
It's been cool. We used to be a lot more hands-on in, I guess, like tapping into reception and what people think. And it definitely is just like, it's a way different record than Comp, and it's a way different record than Tom. But like, I guess our hopes were that people would still be able to like feel like it's a Heart to Gold record. Like none of that aspect is gone. And so I think like me personally, I have tried to just like opt out from the reception aspect of it. And it's so far, it has been cool. We had people that we care about reach out to us and say that it's great. We have like some other music industry people like willing to give us the time of day that we're like chit chatting back and forth with. But yeah, I would say that it's been good. We played the album release show, and it sold out. And there was like 650 people there.
Nice.
Damn.
That's like, that might not be big for like a big band, but for us, that's pretty big.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's a lot of people. That's a shitload of people.
I mean, it's like you wouldn't really know, but like, I mean, maybe you would know. Like being from a place that like just doesn't get a lot of shine or love, like Minneapolis or anywhere in the Midwest.
We know.
It can be hard. It can be hard to like make a name for yourself, because it's just like what's happening on the coast is always forever just like more relevant and sometimes just like more catered to. But and not to feel like oddly jaded on some like Smashing Pumpkins stuff. Like, that dude was really he was really notorious for like being jaded about being from the Midwest and like not getting the shine. That's like the Pavement and Smashing Pumpkins beef. Like, but yes, the Smashing Pumpkins were the biggest band at the time. So like he was just being weird about it. So I'm not trying to be like that, but like, yeah, I think I don't know, I kind of rambled on that one, but the reception has been like really cool.
I understand both wanting to be super active in the reception of it, but also be like, you know what? Maybe I don't plug into that to the level that I have in the past, because you're aware of it, but you're not going to worry about how it affects your art, which I think is probably that's the move, right? Like Cool. Thank you for liking it. Thank you for taking an interest in my band, our band. We're happy that you dig what we did. And if you didn't, like, that's okay too. Like, we're going to continue to do what we do because we like what we're doing. And that I feel like that's come through in this conversation.
Yeah, I think that like I might be a hard ass fool at times, but I'm too sensitive to like tap into that stuff and like, and especially in a day and age right now where like it seems like half of seeing new music come out is seeing like the campaign on social media and maybe just if it works like that for you, then it works like that for you. But like some of it, I just like I feel like it's like it's taking away from like what is really important, which is the music, and like
Totally agree.
you're kind of just like being corny about it for the sake of like being seen. It's pick me energy is how I've seen it labeled, and like that's where the almost being a band for a decade catches up, and it's just like I'm not gonna start doing that now to chase relevancy or like try to propel our record. Maybe like that's to our downfall, but like maybe if we were also good at that, we would do that, but we just don't do that. Like we're all too self-conscious to like take videos of ourselves and follow that program,
Yeah.
Like I'm far too sensitive to hear about that stuff. People tell me it's good and that's enough for me. And that makes me feel, seen, heard, and felt. And that's all that I could ever ask for,
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we're talking to you now in mid-January. You've got tour coming up here in mid-March, and you're hitting pretty much everywhere, man. That's exciting stuff. A bunch of different bands: Oolong, Cashier, Otis VCR, Aren't We Amphibians, and World's Worst. Not all on every show, but some in different pockets of the country. But yeah, you're getting out there pretty quick here.
Yeah, great bands, great people. We're excited to be in a lot of these places. We've definitely just like been on a touring kick back and forth lately, and we're kind of doing things the way that we want to do it this tour. We really care about just like building culture, and we're playing at a couple skate parks, we're playing at a couple skate shops, we're playing places where we know we got shooters out there, like yeah, I'm really excited for this tour. It was pretty stressful at one point just trying to juggle like the album campaign, like booking a tour, worrying about this release show. But now all we have to look forward to is like going and playing some kick-ass shows with some great bands, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, I pulled up a few of the venues, and I'm like, oh, that's a sick place for a show.
Yeah,
it's not your Live Nation kind of bullshit. It's like the Boston show. I looked up the venue. It's in a cool spot. It looks like there's like exposed brick. It's kind of a venue spot. It's cool.
Yeah, I think it's at Warehouse XI?
Yeah.
Yeah, we played there before, and it was so sick.
We'd never heard of it until prepping to talk to you. I don't think I'd never heard of it. Anthony, had you?
No, I never heard of it.
Yeah,
cool
that spot is sick. I dropped off of like this garage into a hill bomb like right before we played that show. Sick.
Nice. So, like you said, it was probably pretty stressful doing the album release and putting together this tour for, to go support the album all over the country. How do you get all these bands to play different, portions of it with you? That's a lot of phone calls and emails, I'm sure.
Oh man, we send those fools a DM on Instagram because those are our friends. Like it's
nice.
We just know we've known people. We notice people. We go to their shows if we can. They go to our shows if they can, and it's just love. These are people that we've like gotten to know, and they're just down. We're not gonna send a band from the East Coast and be like, "Yo, come play 3 or 4 shows with us in California." Like we're gonna try and like, take into account what they have going on, where they're at, and where they haven't been. So, we're not like this big band. So we're trying to like, I don't know, trying to just grow with them. That's what you do. You hang out with your friends and like you make memories. You spend time together, and yeah, that's how I guess we convince them to come out with us. They're gonna be like, "What the hell did we get ourselves into?"
Yeah.
Well, you said like you want to create a culture, create a vibe. In chatting with you, Grant, for the last hour and a half, you've definitely done that. and you've done it through this conversation. You've done it through the albums, your music videos, like it all shines through, man.
Well, I'm glad that there's somebody on the other side to convince me that that is working out because
Yeah.
I fly pretty blind these days, and it's sometimes all about what you make of your time on this world, and the little things matter, and you get what you give.
Love that. Love that. So yeah, that's coming up here at the middle of March. I'm sure if you're listening to us anywhere in the country, there's a show semi near where you live. I mean, you might have to drive a little bit to a couple of them, but I bet there's a chance for you to check them out. So if this is your first time, hearing about the band, if you're new to Heart to Gold like we were a couple months ago, go give them a shot. Go check out one of the shows.
Shout out Podioslave. Yeah, heard?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it was great talking with you guys. You guys are really cool, and I appreciate you giving me the time of day, Tony and Anthony.
Thanks,
Respect.
man. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.
And you're the first, man. First in a skate park. We've had some random shit. Never a skate park.
Some random shit. Yeah.
I hope that it wasn't too much trouble. I know it kind of calmed down. It was kind of hectic at first, and then it calmed down. And so I'm hoping that there's no bleeps and bloops that you're like, damn, this sucks.
Nothing I can't clean up, and I didn't hear a whole lot coming from your phone, so we're good there.
Cool.
I'm happy.
You.
I'm happy with the way that turned out. So.
And also, if this is all like on YouTube or video, like, hey, I'm right here. Like, here's the skate park right here.
Yes.
I'm not trying to just like shut the world out. Yeah.
There's the social media clip right there.